My name is Steve Phelps, and you are listening to The Rebound with Coach Matt Doherty.
This is The Rebound Podcast with Coach Matt Doherty.
Welcome to The Rebound. I'm Matt Doherty, and I'll be your host. I became passionate about leadership after losing my job at North Carolina. In 2001, I was voted National Coach of the Year. 2 short years later, I was asked to resign. That sent me on a journey to find what was missing in my life. I found that I needed leadership and the principles of leadership. They were critical components that I needed to improve upon. I needed to learn and grow. With me today is Steve Phelps, President of NASCAR. He's been 14 years in corporate marketing at the NFL. He's a University of Vermont graduate where he ran track, setting an individual school record in the 800 meters and was also part of a record-setting relay team. Steve also earned his MBA from Boston College. Steve, thank you for being on the show. Tell us a little bit about what's going on in the world of NASCAR, especially the Netflix show that's out.
Yeah, so thank you, Matt. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. A lot going on in NASCAR. I would say much of it, or most of it's positive. Specifically, the Netflix show that you had referenced came out about a month ago. And I think for people who have never considered NASCAR, I think it's a really good look kind of behind the scenes and what it takes to be a NASCAR driver and the team element to it. And it just is, I think it's a really neat show. It's a limited edition. It's 5 episodes. But I'd encourage people to go take a look at it. And other than that, we started about a month ago with the Daytona 500, and we had a rain out, unfortunately, on when it was supposed to be, so we ran on Monday. But since that time, the last 3 weeks have been great. The first 4 weeks of the season for us, we've been the number one sporting event of the weekend, which is not unusual for us at this time of year. When we get into the NFL season, it gets a little more difficult. But we're having a moment, and it feels great.
Great. Love it. Let's talk leadership. You took over. You were the 5th president or CEO of NASCAR. And all 4 before you, I believe their last name was France. And yours was not. I think that managing change is one of the biggest challenges in leadership. Understanding your environment, taking a survey, and then going in and managing change either swiftly or slowly. Let's talk about that. Talk about managing change and taking over as the president of NASCAR with a family business.
Yeah. So listen, I'm very fortunate to work for Jim France, who's our chairman, and Lisa France Kennedy, who is our vice chairman or chairwoman, and they're great people. Jim's father started NASCAR. His brother ran NASCAR. Lisa has run our track business as the CEO. I mean, they're just 2 terrific owners, really great people. Let me do my job and give me enough rope to hang myself or whatever that's going to be. But I feel very fortunate to be in the position I've been in. To your point, I've been the president of NASCAR since 2018. And I would say, it was the fall of 2018, so we're almost finished that particular season. I would say that season's probably the lowest point for NASCAR in terms of where viewership was, attendance was. We were really kind of on a slow, steady decline for 9 or 10 years since, kind of the Great Recession in 2009. And it was really hard. And since that time, we've known nothing but success. And I'm not suggesting that's because of me. I have great people. We put a great plan in place, and have executed against it. And so we're in a different place. As part of that, since that journey, we merged with our sister company, which was a public company that owned 12 racetracks, International Speedway Corporation. In the fall of 2019, so a year after I had taken the reins, heading up NASCAR. And then the pandemic hit. And I think probably no more I was unsure about where we were going on March 13th as we closed down like the other major sports did, 2 days after the NBA. And we were one of the last to close out, but it went quickly. And then we started devising a plan for how we're going to be the first major sport back to competing again. Initially without fans and then in front of fans. And that's exactly what we did. So on May 18th of 2020, we went to Darlington Raceway and we ran a race. We started to competing again. And then a month later in Miami, and then Talladega in front of a limited number of fans. So, but I think to your point on leadership, Matt, the unknown that was COVID made the leadership challenges just that much more because you don't really know what you have, right? Can you do it? And again, I had great people that architected a plan that got us back. And I tried to be as, a strong leader and set direction and vision for where we needed to go. And my folks executed against it and we did really well.
How did becoming the first non-family member in the leadership role at NASCAR, how did you embrace that? Were you scared of that? What questions did you ask before you took the job?
Yeah, so to me, becoming the president of NASCAR was something that one of the reasons why I left the NFL is I wanted to do more. I thought I could do more. And I thought, when this transition was made and they appointed me president of NASCAR, it was something that I really wanted. And so I wasn't afraid of it. The timing wasn't great just because we weren't doing all that well. But I guess that's a blessing as well, isn't it?
That is a blessing.
So it's like, hey, if it keeps on this slow, steady decline, well, it wasn't me, right?
You don't want to follow Dean Smith or Bill Guthridge when they take their team to the Final Four. Okay. So timing is important. It's a good, I'm seriously, I say this all the time. Yeah. You want to buy a good stock that's beaten up, right? You want to buy on the dips. Businesses are like stocks. You bought NASCAR when it was on a dip, but it was a blue chip stock.
It was.
And so you had the opportunity.
We were in a dip. We were in a trough, but we've turned that around. I think, again, to me, I thought the challenge was there at the end of, there's a, state of the sport that the leader would typically do. So the year before, Brian France, who was our chairman and CEO, had given the address, state of the sport, and it was hard, right? So this was my first state of the sport at the season-ending event that we were having at the time in Miami, and I did an opening, and then I took questions, and I did a close. And I said, there is one person in this entire room that believes that our best days are ahead of us, and that's me, because you all don't believe it. You don't. I believe that to be true, and I will show you that we are going to do that. And that's what we've done. And so, it's been, people who were in that kind of 9-10 year cycle where we were just difficulty, right? But we've built it back up. And now the reputation and the relevance of the sport is I would say, is its highest it's ever been. And we have plans to take it to that next level. And I'm confident that we're going to do that. I'm super excited. We've got 3 new media partners that will start in 25, Amazon, Warner Brothers Discovery, and the CW, to add on with Fox and NBC. We have a brand new productions facility that we just built that will do both live event production as well as content creation. We're about to hire 2 world-class content creators. And on top of, kind of the efforts we did in DE&I and now in sustainability around this umbrella program called NASCAR Impact. So the future is super bright, and I'm excited about it. And now when I have my state of the sport and people, when I say the best days are in front of us, I actually believe most of people in that room believe that to be a true statement. So it's been quite a journey.
I love that, and we're going to come back to that. We're getting ready to take a break. Let's go to break, and when we come back, Steve is going to discuss his Rebound in a more deeper level. The Rebound is sponsored by Sector Spider ETFs, a unique family of exchange-traded funds that divide the S&P 500 into 11 sector index funds. You can buy just the sectors you like or customize the S&P 500 by weighting the 11 sectors to meet your financial objective. Please visit them on the web at sectorspiders.com. That's sector, SPDRS.com.
Alps Portfolio Solutions Distributor, a registered broker-dealer, is the distributor for the Select Sector Spider Trust.
Steve, tell us about the biggest rebound of your life, a moment when you may have failed, lost a loved one, or had a pivot. What was it, and how did you rebound from it?
So I think the rebound for me, Matt, really was around the sport itself. And to me as well, just because if you think back to, this kind of decade-long decline that the sport was under, is it a personal rebound to me? Yeah, it's a personal rebound because I was the I was the chief marketing officer at the time. Apparently, I was doing a crappy job, and so I would think there was questions about whether this sport could rebound itself, and whether this, kind of this new president, who was me, could lead that change, right, and lead the rebound. And proud to say that we've done that, and we still have much work to do.
Let me interrupt. You were the chief marketing officer. The sport was struggling, yet you got promoted to president.
Yeah, there was an interim step. I was the chief operating officer for a little while as well. But I think the France family, Jim and Lisa in particular, I think they thought the sport needed a change and in leadership, and they thought that person was me. And I'm grateful that they did and put their trust in me to try to lead this sport and to lead our organization to get it back to a glory it once had, and actually expand on it, both nationally and internationally. And that's the journey we're on right now. But it's there were some dark days, if I'm going to be completely honest. Where
what was the darkest? What was the darkest day?
I think it was really just the uncertainty around it, Matt, because I think I had a vision that we could grow. I had a vision that our best days would be ahead of us, but that's part of it's also kind of aspirational, right? And you're trying to bring an industry along. I do think the industry itself was happy that they had made the change with me. That was part of the battle, right? Because we're a little bit different than stick and ball sports because there's a fragmentation to it. We don't own race teams; they own themselves. They contract with the drivers. We don't do that. We own racetracks, but there are also other racetracks that we don't own where we participate. And so there's a fragmentation there that's a little bit different. And so it is the single, I think, most important part of my job is bringing industry together, which is hard to do because everyone has self-interest, and which is human nature. And so you have to convince someone that, hey, in the short term, this actually may not be in your best interest, but ultimately it will, because it's going to help the sport grow. And if the sport's growing, the pie is growing, the revenue's increasing, and then everyone gets the absolute piece is actually larger. So that's an important part of my job.
Let me go back. You were basically brought in to initiate change, and you had a vision. Now, I've seen this a lot in sports. Yeah, we want change, we want change, we want change. You come in and create change, and then people don't like change.
I agree.
And so they fight it. And then you can look behind you, and now all of a sudden there's nobody there to support you. The same people that said, we want change, we want change. How did you know you had the support to initiate the change, knowing it was going to make people uncomfortable?
Yeah, so I'll give you an example, actually, Matt. So I think, for us, we needed to change, right? Schedule variation. I mean, we had to shake things up, right? Because if you kept doing the things the way that you were doing it, we were going to fail. And so for us, I think one of the in 2020, not just the pandemic, but how we were able to navigate social justice. People's perception of our sport is that we're a Southern sport. And we are certainly proud of our Southern heritage and our roots being here in the South. But we are far broader than just a Southern sport. But one of the impediments we had as part of, kind of being from the South was the display of the Confederate flag at our facilities.
Right.
And so we ended up making a decision that we were going to ban the Confederate flag at all of our racetracks nationally. The support that you were asking about, the most important support I need is from my two owners, Lisa and Jim, and they supported that decision. It's not an easy decision when people's perception that your entire existing fan base is going to leave. I didn't think that was going to happen. I knew we were going to lose a minority of folks who just, this isn't their cup of tea anymore. I understand that. But I was certain that we could bring others to the sport, younger, more diverse people into the sport, both working at NASCAR, ownership of NASCAR, and then the fan base itself. What I was surprised with, Matt, is how quickly that happened. I mean, we saw that within weeks. Athletes that were coming, celebrities that were coming, of people of color, seeing the youth come. At the end of the year, we were one of the fastest. We were top 10 brands, not sports brands, top 10 brands growing with Gen Z. I would have bet my house that never would have happened, but it happened because of this, the changes that we made in the sport in 2020. And lo and behold, very quickly, Pitbull became an owner. Michael Jordan, it's all UNC all the time, became an owner, and others, younger ownership coming in. And that has fueled continued growth of our fan base. And then just look at our employee base, people who would never consider coming to NASCAR now work here. And I'm proud of that. The diversification of not just the workforce, but how we're thinking about the business is important. That goes back to change. And you're right, Matt. People don't like change. They just don't. And there's some that embrace it, and others that you gotta, drag kicking and screaming. But we're going to do that. And we've had significant success by changing the way things that we've done. And not change for change's sake. Change, meaningful change that is really rooted in strategy and, looks at what's the risk assessment for us to do that. And it's worked for us.
What's your management style? I mean, you have so many stakeholders, from the Francis to the fans, to the drivers, to the owners. How do you make decisions without, you don't want everybody to vote, but you got to test the water.
Sure.
And then you have to do what you think is right. What's your management style?
So a couple different things. I think everything we do from a decision-making standpoint is rooted in research. Listen, you have to have some gut feel as to what it is, but if you can't really understand what the opportunities look like and they're not rooted in research, there's a decent possibility you're going to make a bad decision. You get lucky, right? Hey, gut feel, this feels right. Let's go ahead and do that. But with respect to my leadership or my management style, I try to lead from the front. So if there are people that work in this company that work harder than I do, that would be surprising to me. My work ethic is the most important thing, and it has been for my entire career. I will not be outworked. Not the smartest guy on the planet, but I'll be damned if I'm going to be outworked, and I'm not going to be. But I also try to be a good listener, right? And be collaborative in what it is we're doing. And I try to set a vision, but have others try to help craft the plan so they feel a part what it is, right? And they can have ownership in it, because dictating to me is not a management style for me. Being a yeller and whatnot, it's not my management style. I'm going to lead from the front, but I'm going to do it in a way that is, with empathy and compassion and listening to what others have to say, because I certainly don't have all the answers. I have some, but right. If you're going to go outside,
I heard a great line. A leader should want to be right at the end of the meeting, not at the beginning of the meeting.
For sure.
And so, listening, work ethic, inclusion, those were key words that I wrote down. And we have a few minutes left. You were a track star at Vermont.
Wait a minute. We got to stop right there. Track star in Vermont. It's not,
It's okay. Listen, let's listen.
Going, but
that's good.
Just go
ahead.
Good.
That's good. Yeah.
It's not like saying, hey, I played basketball at UNC, right?
Yeah. Well, all right.
Keep going. There's a question here.
You're a great runner at Vermont. That work ethic probably got you those records. How did your experience as an athlete translate to what you're doing today in terms of your work ethic? I imagine that really hasn't changed much.
Yeah, well, if I'm going to be completely self-effacing, you can be a track star at the University of Vermont and not work that hard. And I didn't work that hard. I didn't put in the effort necessary. But when I graduated from business school and I started my first company called American Home Products as a brand assistant on the Chef Boyardee brand, pretty glamorous, I promised myself I would not be outworked. And I combined that with listening to people and caring about people and being sincere and authentic. Those were the kind of the keys for me. But I suppose if I had actually had a better training regimen and put in the miles necessary, I would have been a better track star than I was.
Well, Steve, I've got one last question. What question should I have asked that I didn't?
That's a good question. I think to me is really going back to, you talk about leadership. I think that's key. I think I didn't have a mentor. A lot of people do have mentors, and I think it's really important to have mentors and be a mentor to others. So, to me, it really comes back to my family and what was my family's role in what it is. And I would say, primarily it was my mom's support and my mom's belief and confidence that good things were going to happen to me. And I certainly didn't see those as a kid. We grew up poor, and maybe that influenced the work ethic as well, ultimately, when it come to wage earning. But it was really, I think, the guidance of my mom.
Love it.
And so really, I would say family. And
love it.
How did that translate?
That's an awesome, powerful ending. Steve, thanks for joining us today. Great perspective on leadership and managing change. Leadership is a learned behavior. We all lead in some way, shape, or form. I challenge you to rebound. I challenge you to learn and grow. If you'd like to contact me, you can reach me at dohertycoaching.com. Leadership is a learned behavior. You're a leader whether you're a parent, a coach, a business owner, or a friend. We all lead in some way, shape, or form. Thanks for listening. I welcome any and all feedback. You can reach me at dohertycoaching.com.